Hello, I am Alon Burstein. I'm a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Israel Institute Fellow at the University of California, Irvine, and I am here to give you the updates on the last 24 hours of the Israel-Hamas war. So it's currently the eve of October 20th, 2023 in the United States, and the morning of October 21st, 2023 in the Middle East. Starting with the hostage situation, Hamas today released two kidnapped Israeli-American citizens. A mother and her 18-year-old daughter were released. These are the first people to be released from the upwards of 200 people that were kidnapped on October 7th and taken into the Gaza Strip by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Hamas announced that this was a humanitarian gesture and thanked Qatar for its help. It was later revealed that this release was secured as part of negotiations between Qatar, Israel, the United States, and Hamas. And it was later rumored that Hamas carried out this release as part of its efforts to forestall Israel's impeding ground invasion into the Gaza Strip. I'll come back to this when we talk more about the political developments that occurred today. Now, going on to some of the ongoing fighting. There were continued rocket barrages from the Gaza Strip, pummeling the south of Israel and the center of Israel, as every day. There were rockets fired into the entire areas surrounding the Gaza Strip, into Ashkelon, Ashdod, Be'er Tuvia, as well as into the center of the country, and there were direct hits in the towns of Sderot. Israel continued its bombardment of the Gaza Strip from the sky. Among these, a senior member of Hamas's strategic military development, Mahmoud Sabih, was assassinated. In addition to that, the Palestinian Health Ministry is reporting that since the war began, 4,100 Palestinians were killed in the Gaza Strip and over 13,000 were injured. Israel today, according to sources on the ground, issued a warning to the Al-Quds hospital in the Gaza Strip, saying that the hospital needs to be evacuated. This is part of Israel's attempt to continuously evacuate civilians from different territories that it plans to invade. The hospital administration said that they reject this order and they cannot possibly evacuate all the people in the hospital. Now on to some of the humanitarian aid. After deals were brokered yesterday between Israel, Egypt, the United States, and the United Nations, Egypt today announced that the Rafah crossing is open and that the first trucks carrying loads of medicines have been flowing into the Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing. However, Egypt did announce that while the crossing is open, Israel is stopping any Palestinians, even those with foreign nationals, from leaving the Gaza Strip. Now on to the West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that since the war began, 81 people have been killed and over 1,400 injured. The IDF, I remind you, is continuously carrying out crackdowns against Hamas in the West Bank as well. Senior members of Hamas were arrested in the last couple of days, and over 300 were arrested by the IDF since the war began. Moving on to the north, as I report every day, there are continued low-level escalations between Hezbollah and the IDF in this ongoing game of chicken. Which one of them is going to break the status quo and lead the area into a full-scale war? So Hezbollah took responsibility today for 20 to 30 rockets that were fired into the Hardov area and for an anti-tank missile that was fired against an IDF outpost. In addition, there were 5 border incidences and attempted infiltrations from Lebanon into Israel. Some of these involved gun battles near Metula, and helicopters were seen there helping to neutralize the situation. In addition, there were gun battles in Hardov, and in one instance, it took the IDF several hours to hunt down infiltrators that were trying to penetrate the border into Israel. There were also rockets fired at Metula today. And in addition, the IDF has been retaliating all the way into the night against different Hezbollah infrastructures throughout Lebanon. In addition, the Lebanese foreign minister today again stated that the government is trying to avoid any escalation, that the Lebanese government does not want to get into the war. He issued a statement that he had proposed that Israel declare a unilateral 48-hour ceasefire in northern Israel, in southern Lebanon, and I'm quoting, "After that we'll see who starts what." In other words, he is trying to suggest that if Israel should declare a ceasefire, maybe the organizations in southern Lebanon will also continue with the ceasefire. The Lebanese government did say they're in dialogue with the organizations in southern Lebanon in order to not drag Lebanon into the war, but also stated that they have no control over these organizations and that what happens in Gaza is going to be what determines if they do pull Lebanon into the war or not. Going on to some of the political developments that occurred, Egypt today announced that a summit will take place tomorrow in which the future of the region will be discussed. There are many, many countries that have announced that they're going to participate. It includes the Egyptian president, the Palestinian Authority chairman Mahmoud Abbas, the King of Bahrain, the Kuwaiti Crown Prince, prime ministers of Italy, Spain, Greece, president of Cyprus, and foreign ministers from Germany, France, Japan, United Kingdom, UN Secretary General, as well as delegates from the EU. It is important to note that who is not participating are delegates from Israel, no delegates from Hamas, no delegates from the United States. And I'm reminding everyone that it was supposed to be a summit meeting several days ago when President Biden visited the region between President Biden, President of Egypt, the King of Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority chairman. This was canceled a day before due to the explosion that happened in the hospital in Gaza. So this summit is coming after. There are a lot more participants. However, none of the participants actually exert a lot of influence on what is happening in the fighting on the ground. In addition to that, it was announced today that part of the U.S. aid package of $14 billion to Israel is going to include $10 billion in military assistance, and that President Biden is asking for an additional $109 billion from Congress in order to facilitate border protections of both Ukraine and Israel. In other announcements, Turkish President Erdogan today stated that Israel is provoking the entire region and needs to stop its ongoing genocide. Now, some other political developments that occurred throughout the day relating to those two hostages that were released. So it was rumored, as I stated, that this release happened as part of Hamas's attempt to constantly forestall Israel's ground invasion. This was later confirmed, with both UK and the United States issuing various different statements pressuring Israel to hold off its ground invasion until Qatar can maybe facilitate the release of more hostages. The White House later rejected this after his initial statement, saying President Biden did not hear the question that was asked and he did not mean that Israel should actually forestall its invasion. Either way, Israel made clear that it is not going to be influenced by the release of these hostages and the military campaign is going to continue as planned. And moving on to discuss some of this military campaign, there are reports today that Israel is actually starting to consider what happens next. In the last few days, the security establishment in Israel has begun preparing for the question if, in fact, the IDF does manage to destroy Hamas or remove it from power, what comes next? So, firstly, it is assumed that the campaign to remove Hamas from power is going to take several weeks or several months, and these rumors were bolstered by the fact that soldiers have been suggesting that they are being told as part of the training that the war may drag on well into the winter, which means several months in the future from now. In these negotiations, it seems that Israel's preference is that the Palestinian Authority will regain control of the Gaza Strip. However, Israel has also been speaking to the United Nations in order to avoid a power vacuum and avoid a situation where Israel has to return to an active ongoing occupation and reinstate the military regime. And while Israel does not want to reinstate the military regime, it has been decided that units from the civil administration, that is the military armed wing that controls the civil administration in the West Bank, are going to accompany the ground forces as they invade the Gaza Strip in order to help deal with civilians. So there's sort of this mishmash of what is probably going to happen, but what is clear is that in the intermediary, Israel is planning to have some direct control on the ground, and civil administration units are going to come in order to help figure out how to deal with the local population. In addition, in a meeting today, Israel's Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, discussed the war and said that he sees a three-phase plan. The first phase is the military phase. We're currently only in the beginning of that military phase. It includes both these bombardments from the sky and the ground invasion. During this phase, Israel is going to take out Hamas attackers and remove Hamas infrastructure and basically overthrow and destroy Hamas's ability to govern the Gaza Strip. That is the first phase of the war. The second phase, what he called the intermediary phase, in which there will be far lower intensity fighting, and Israel is going to eradicate what he called pockets of resistance. So while Israel controls the Gaza Strip, or at least Gaza City or the north of the Gaza Strip, at this point it's unclear, it is going to have much lower intensity fighting, but continue actively hunting down pockets of resistance. And the third phase is going to, I'm quoting, create a new security regime in Gaza, and then remove Israel's responsibility from life in the Gaza Strip and create a new security reality for people down south. So Israel is intending, according to its Minister of Defense, to create a new situation, a new governing administration in the Gaza Strip, but not have that be Israel itself. Israel will remove itself from the scene. Netanyahu's office later rejected the idea that Israel is planning to hand Gaza over to the Palestinian Authority. This rejection has more to do likely with internal politics and the way some of Netanyahu's coalition partners see the Palestinian Authority. However, later on, Israel's defense minister again rejected the idea that was raised in cabinet that Israel will hold on to territory in the Gaza Strip or create some sort of buffer in the Gaza Strip after the war. Those are our updates for the last 24 hours. I will be back tomorrow.